For money, I went home with a wealthy man. His son came down from upstairs and I froze. That was the person I had a secret crush on in my youth. Charles extinguished the cigarette between his fingers, staring at me with a cold sneer. The new money boy you found is him? Chapter 1. My name is Ethan, and I am a beta. In this alpha-dominated world, I am like the most inconspicuous item on a shelf. That day, rain was pouring down when an impeccably dressed gentleman took a fancy to me and wanted to take me home. This was my first time taking a client. I thought this was just how my life would go. But when I pushed open the door, that tall, straight figure on the stairs instantly turned me to stone. Charles. How could it be him? He glanced at me lazily, the smoke from his fingers swirling over. My eyes stung a little. This is the new one you found? Looks. He looked me up and down, his gaze lingering on my face for a moment before he carelessly stubbed out the cigarette. Too ordinary. The gentleman looked at his son expressionlessly. Just wanted a change of taste. He pushed up his glasses and signaled for me to go upstairs. I walked over stiffly. When I passed Charles with my head lowered, his face wore his usual indifference, as if I were just air. He didn't recognize me. I quietly breathed a sigh of relief, but my heart felt blocked by something, making it hard to breathe. A servant led me into a luxurious bedroom. After showering, I came out wrapped only in a towel. Someone was sitting on the sofa. Charles had his back to me, his voice cold. Take it off. What? I froze, looking around. Wasn't it the gentleman who ordered me? Charles seemed to see through my confusion. If you're unwilling, you can leave. I clenched my fists. If it were just accompanying a stranger, I could throw away all my dignity. But facing Charles, I couldn't do it. He was the person I had loved for 6 years. To reunite in such a wretched way. My throat tightened, and I turned to walk toward the door. Ding dong. A notification sound from my phone suddenly rang out. It was a text message from the hospital urging payment. My little sister was still lying in the hospital bed waiting for surgery. A few seconds later, I returned to the sofa with my head lowered. My fingers trembled as I undid the towel. Charles glanced at me, then quickly looked away. He pressed a button. The bookcase slowly opened. Inside was filled with things I had never seen before. My eyes widened, and my mind went blank. Charles poured a glass of wine unhurriedly. It's not too late to regret it now. I gritted my teeth. I don't regret it. Selling myself was selling myself. What did it matter who the buyer was? Charles never lacked company. There were plenty of beautiful omegas around him. It was normal for him not to remember an ordinary beta like me. It would be best if he never remembered. Charles handed me a glass of wine. After drinking it, my whole body felt hot and restless. He grabbed my collar and pressed me onto the sofa. His movements weren't gentle at all. He seemed to be venting something, rough and urgent. I had no pheromones, nor could I smell his. He repeatedly bit the back of my neck. This was an alpha's way of declaring possessiveness. When I couldn't breathe, I tried to grab onto something, but he deliberately let go of my hands and raised an eyebrow. Charles told me to choose one of the items on the wall. I had seen a few in the shop, but didn't know how to use them. I looked at him hesitantly. Before I could speak, he pinned down my leg. Can't choose? Then let me help you. His tone was icy, but some kind of emotion surged in his eyes. He raised his hand. A blindfold covered my eyes. I don't remember much of what happened after. I only felt like I was struggling repeatedly on the edge of life and death. I was like meat on a chopping board, at his mercy. However, Charles today was different from the rumors. I heard he was always calm and composed, with everything under control. But today, his emotions were very unstable, even a bit irritable. When my tears fell, I heard him give a soft TSK. Mr. Charles, I don't have pheromones. If you want to mark someone, you should find an omega. Omegas are too troublesome. He pressed the back of my neck. I flinched in pain. Didn't expect you to be this sensitive to touch? He chuckled low with a hint of mockery. But betas are better. No need to take responsibility. Felt like my heart was squeezed hard. I closed my eyes and let him do as he pleased. Throughout the whole process, Charles didn't kiss me once. Probably thought I was dirty. Suddenly, the lights came on. The blindfold was yanked off. Charles pinched my chin, looking at me closely. Were we in the same class in high school? How could that be? Mr. Charles has mistaken me for someone else. I squeezed out a professional smile, to hide the shame and embarrassment inside. Charles lowered his eyes and flipped me over. Since we don't know each other, Then I don't need to be polite. What I thought was the end turned out to be just the beginning. And Alpha's stamina was beyond imagination, until the horizon turned white. Only then did Charles finally let me go. He took out a black card and placed it on the bedside table. My throat was so hoarse I couldn't speak. Watching him walk into the bathroom, I took a deep breath and struggled to get up. I carefully put away the card and picked up my clothes. Can't stay overnight at a client's house. That was the rule of the shop. Those rich people were most afraid of trouble. Chapter 2. Actually, Charles and I were classmates in high school. Betas were always the easiest to ignore in school. My grades were average and my looks were ordinary. In 3 years, I hadn't spoken more than a few words to him, except for a few basketball games. His team was short on players, so I was pulled in last minute to make up the numbers. He was the focus on the court. Everyone loved watching him play. One time, midway through the game, something was suddenly wrong with him. I later found out his rut had started. Charles was a high-level alpha. His rut came once every 3 months, and it was severe each time. His friends were all suppressed by his pheromones and couldn't stand it. Only I, as a beta, was unaffected and took him to the infirmary. That was the first time I felt lucky to be a beta, to be able to get close to him legitimately. Charles was burning up all over, his eyes glazed. He leaned on my shoulder, pressed tightly against me. I couldn't feel his pheromones, but his scorching breath sprayed against my neck. That feeling, I remembered it for many years. Later, his parents divorced and he rarely came to school. The next time I heard news about him, it was said he had gone abroad. I once thought that if I worked hard, maybe I could get into the university he was going to. But reality told me there was an insurmountable chasm between us. The black card Charles gave me had $1 million on it. The moment I saw the balance, I was stunned. I had heard from colleagues that some clients would give tips, but I didn't expect him to be this generous. I went to the hospital to pay off the hospitalization fees and the previous owed medication costs. I was still short $70,000 for the surgery fee. I never saw that wealthy man at the club again. However, while working part-time at a family planning store, I encountered Charles once. A boy blushed as he bought a few boxes of condoms. He looked like an Omega at first glance, sweet and delicate. Out of the corner of my eye, I glimpsed the car outside. Looking closely, Charles was sitting in the driver's seat, his arm casually resting on the car door, the smoke from his fingertips drifting out the window. When he looked over, I quickly withdrew my gaze and hid behind the advertisement board. I helped this Omega check out expressionlessly. But in my heart I was thinking, this size doesn't fit Charles. He should buy the largest size. The Omega in front of me paid and got into that car. I stared at the car exhaust. Took a long time before I looked away. Valentine's Day. The club was holding an event. Many customers came to patronize. Betas always waited the longest backstage. When my friend Jeffrey came to work, he brought me a midnight snack. Eat something to pad your stomach. You won't get drunk as easily later. He patted my shoulder. Jeffrey was an Omega, cute-looking with dimples when he smiled. He worked as a bartender in the shop. He often ate with me. I usually didn't have much business. He joked with me, saying he could take me as an apprentice and teach me bartending. I thought I would be empty-handed again today, but a private room upstairs was short on people, and the manager dragged me over to make up the numbers. Inside the private room was a group of rich young men. They opened their mouths talking about tens of millions in luxury homes and recent billion-dollar projects. A red-haired playboy pulled me over, making me drink with him. I silently listened to them brag and gossip. Suddenly, a familiar name reached my ears. Charles is back. We should welcome him, right? He's been back for a while. Heard he plans to get married this time. No wonder. I thought he was developing abroad. Is it that Omega from the Walton family? Probably. Heard they lived together abroad before. My hand peeling an orange paused for a moment. Then I pretended nothing happened and arranged the fruit platter. I accompanied them to drink 2 bottles of liquor. My stomach was churning, just as I wanted to find an excuse to go vomit. The door was pushed open. Charles walked in. Behind him followed that sweet Omega from before. Everyone called him Edgar. They exchanged pleasantries. Charles's gaze swept over me, then moved away indifferently, as if he hadn't seen anything. I lowered my head to pour wine for the man beside me. He put his arm around me, leaning close to sniff me. Beta? Used to smelling those overly sweet Omegas. Suddenly feel you're quite fresh and clean too. Want to go to my place later? I clearly needed money badly, but I wasn't in the mood to agree, because I looked up and saw Edgar chatting with Charles. Charles took Edgar's wine glass to stop him from drinking, handing him a glass of orange juice instead. So he knew how to care for people too. I vomited in the toilet. When I came out, Charles was leaning against the sink smoking. There were only the two of us in the restroom. Not greeting him would be impolite. "Good evening, Mr. Charles." I walked over to wash my hands. Perhaps the smell of perfume on me mixed with other alpha scents. Charles couldn't help but frown. I hurriedly took a step back, wanting to leave quickly. "Ethan, do you take any customer?" An icy voice called my name. I stiffened, turning my back to him, daring not look into his eyes. "Mr. Charles, this is my job." "Job?" Charles scoffed lightly. The cigarette was stubbed out in the ashtray, making a sizzling sound. I pushed the door open to leave. A hand reached over and closed the door again. Charles pushed me hard. I was pressed against the door by him. The back of my neck was firmly gripped by him. The pads of his fingers rubbed the place he had repeatedly bitten before. "Do you not know what the black card means?" "It means from now on you have to be on call, belonging only to me." My eyes widened. Just as I wanted to turn around, my legs were pinned, unable to move. Charles leaned close to me. "Now let me see your professional skills. Open your mouth." A burning hot palm covered my waist, seeming to want to lift the hem of my shirt. A phone ringtone rang, breaking the rising ambiguity. I was startled, wanted to dodge. The back of my neck was bitten by him until it bled. It didn't hurt much. Instead, it made my legs feel weak. Charles answered the phone while rubbing my lips with one hand. Edgar's voice came from the other end, probably asking where he was. "I'm busy. You guys continue playing. Then are you coming to my place tonight? You promised to help me last time." Edgar's voice was very soft. When he lowered his voice, there was an unconscious coquettishness to it. I listened quietly, somewhat absent-minded. It sounded like they had a good relationship. Then why come to me? I thought of that wall full of sex toys, and the answer came to my heart. Omegas were delicate and soft, afraid of pain. A beta without pheromones could handle however much tossing around without issue. I lowered my eyes to stare at the potted plant in the corner, not wanting to listen to their sweet nothings. Charles hooked my chin, not letting me get distracted. His fingers touched the corner of my mouth. Slender fingertips reached inside, pressing against my canine tooth. My tongue couldn't dodge and licked him several times. The light in Charles's eyes grew darker and darker. "Talk later." Hanging up, he put away the phone. Charles withdrew his fingers and raised an eyebrow. "Didn't see you being this good at licking before." My ears felt hot. Just now he clearly teased me on purpose. I didn't want to lick his hand at all. Charles teased me for a while. I was stiff all over and at a loss. He probably found it boring and pushed me away with a cold face. "Weren't you laughing happily with others just now? How come when you're with me, you're like a log?" The patron was angry. I hurriedly apologized to him. Charles ignored me, opened the door directly, and walked out. I tidied my messy clothes, seeing my flushed cheeks in the mirror. A few seconds later, his footsteps stopped, and he turned back grumpily. "What are you standing there for? Still want to go back to do your job? Come with me." Chapter 3. Charles took me home. It was the same villa as last time. He didn't say a word the whole way. Even a fool could tell he was unhappy. While he went to shower, I brewed him a cup of sobering tea. Charles walked out wearing a bathrobe. I hurriedly brought it over attentively. "Mr. Charles, drink something to sober up." He sat on the sofa and took a sip, his pale fingertips holding the rim of the cup. "A cup of tea isn't enough to please me." "It's not to please you. This is what I should do." Charles glanced around. He noticed the humidifier and AC were set to the perfect levels. A fruit platter and milk were arranged on the table. Everything he might want was there. The bedroom was comfortable. He didn't need to lift a finger. He raised an eyebrow. "Do you treat other clients like this too?" I nodded hesitantly. This was all part of the manager's training. Remembering a client's preferences was my duty. But I had long committed Charles's preferences to heart. Suddenly, the cup was set on the table with a dull thud. Charles looked over with a cold gaze. He seemed even angrier than before. Before I could realize why, he spoke coldly. "Go kneel by the bed." When I returned to my rental apartment, my whole body ached as if it were falling apart. If not for my clothes covering me up, those marks would definitely attract strange looks. I asked Jeffrey about the black card. He was surprised. "You don't know? Accepting a black card means you're being kept. You can buy anything anywhere with that card. I don't know who in our club is so lucky. No one has ever seen that card until now." In other words, that card wasn't just a debit card. It could be used like a credit card. I froze. The manager hadn't mentioned this. He usually focused on training the pretty Omegas. An ordinary beta like me was like an extra. I wasn't told many of the unwritten rules. With the black card, I didn't need to work at the club anymore. For a whole week, Charles didn't contact me. I didn't have his number and didn't know how to find him. I guess he'd find me when he needed me. I went to the hospital to pay the medical bills so my sister could receive treatment with peace of mind. Angel had lost a lot of weight. She looked at me obediently, wanting to say something but stopping herself. Her pale face was heartbreaking. No longer worrying about the surgery fees, I breathed a temporary sigh of relief. Jeffrey was off today. I bought groceries to cook a meal to thank him. He had helped a lot while my sister was hospitalized. You're really cooking for me? Then I won't be polite. Jeffrey picked out a bunch of vegetables and happily went home with me. Ethan, I want sweet and sour pork ribs. The last time I ate your cooking was during New Year's. I've been craving it for a long time. Then I'll make a bit more today. Downstairs at the apartment, I felt someone watching me. I looked back but only saw sparse pedestrians. That night, I made sweet and sour ribs, garlic shrimp, steamed base and beef soup. Just home-cooked dishes. Jeffrey liked it very much and finished everything. He burped and collapsed on the sofa. Ethan, if only you were an Omega, I'd marry you right away. Oh, stop it. I laughed, urging him to wash the dishes. Jeffrey was afraid of alphas. He was a standard gay man who only liked Omegas. Homosexuality wasn't widely accepted in society, so only I knew this. I was washing grapes when my phone lit up. Seeing the unknown number on the screen, I had a premonition and hurriedly took the phone to the balcony. I pressed answer. Sure enough, a familiar voice came from the other end. It's me. Mr. Charles, is something the matter? Come down. I'm downstairs at your place. I froze. Before I could speak again, the call was hung up. I went downstairs. A Bentley was parked in front of the dilapidated residential building, looking completely out of place. I sat in the passenger seat. The atmosphere inside the car was suffocatingly oppressive. Charles stared at me expressionlessly. Who is that man in your house? Ethan, did you forget the rules of the black card? I didn't forget. Did he think Jeffrey was my client? Jeffrey is my roommate. He's a bartender at the club. We aren't in the relationship you think we are. Roommate? Really? I nodded. Charles's expression softened slightly. Then take me up to see. Huh? What? Unwilling? No. It's just that my place is too messy. I made excuses to refuse, but actually, I was embarrassed to let him see my shabby apartment. I didn't even have decent tea. It would be an injustice for someone like him to go to such a place. Charles scoffed. Is it too messy? Or are you hiding something shameful? Really, there's nothing. Seeing my persistence, he didn't force the issue. Charles kept a straight face and irritably took out his cigarette case, only to find it empty. His face looked even worse. Watching him crush the cigarette box, I quickly said, I'll go buy some. He grabbed me. The lights inside the car were dim. Charles hooked the corner of his lips. The smile wasn't exactly warm, but it made his handsome face bloom like a peach blossom. I stared blankly for a moment. No need to smoke. Doing something else can relieve boredom too. His meaning couldn't be more obvious. I gripped the hem of my shirt tightly with both hands. The manager had taught many ways to please clients, and none of them were dignified. Seeing Charles's displeased look, I steeled my heart. I climbed over and sat on his lap. Mr. Charles, I'll help relieve your boredom. I approached him clumsily, reaching for his belt. The next second, he grabbed my wrist. Charles narrowed his eyes. Who taught you that? The manager. I answered honestly. Hearing this answer, his anger mostly dissipated. Charles frowned, obviously disliking the lingering sweet scent of Jeffrey, the Omega, on me. Take off your clothes. Your natural scent smells better. I was only wearing a shirt. If I took it off, I lowered my head awkwardly, my fingers hesitating as I started undoing the buttons. My neck and collarbone were gradually revealed. Charles's gaze deepened, his fingers rubbing unconsciously as if holding back. Before I finished undoing the buttons, he pulled me over and bit my neck. I didn't have a gland, yet every time, it felt like he wanted to swallow me whole. His scorching breath sprayed against my neck as my body pressed tightly against him. I could feel something even hotter. My face turned completely red instantly, and I didn't know where to put my hands. Charles held me tightly, his strength so great it felt like he wanted to knead me into his own body. If I could smell pheromones, I would have realized he was unusually manic right now, as if on the edge of a mental breakdown. The alpha's pheromones enveloped me completely, so rich and heavy they seemed to soak through me. In just a few seconds, he thoroughly covered Jeffrey's scent. But I was unaware of this. I only felt that his fingers were a bit rough. Chapter 4. Just as the Bentley began to rock slightly, my phone ringtone suddenly rang out. Seeing it was a call from the hospital, I hurriedly pushed Charles away. From the other end came the nurse's panicked voice, saying my sister had pulled out her 4 and disappeared. They were looking everywhere for her. My heart plummeted. What's wrong? Charles grabbed my hand. I snapped back to reality. I'm sorry, Charles. I can't stay with you tonight. I have an emergency at the hospital. I frantically prepared to get out of the car. Charles held me back. I'll drive you. He helped me fasten my seatbelt and immediately started the car. When we arrived at the hospital, I rushed straight into the inpatient department, forgetting to thank him in my haste. When I ran into the nurse, she breathed a sigh of relief and said my sister had been found. I walked into the ward. Angel was hiding under the covers, her eyes red. What's wrong, Angel? The nurse said you tried to go to the roof but were stopped by security. Why did you leave the room? Tell your big brother. Do you feel uncomfortable somewhere? Angel, the surgery is coming up soon. Can you hold on just a little longer? I coaxed her softly. Angel had always been very obedient. She would take even the bitterest medicine without complaint and never made me worry. For her to act like this suddenly, there must be a reason. Brother, I don't want treatment anymore. Take me home. I want to go home. Her voice came from under the covers, muffled. Why? You'll recover after the surgery. Angel had congenital kidney disease. We had finally waited for a suitable match. I didn't want her to give up. I lifted the quilt. The pillow was already half soaked with her tears. Brother, because of me, you're living a very hard life, aren't you? If I die, you won't have to be so tired, and you won't get hurt anymore. She wiped her tears. I won't treat it anymore. I'd rather die than make you suffer. What nonsense are you talking about? I'm not tired. As long as you are well, my hard work means nothing. Brother only has you as family left. You are not allowed to say such silly things. I hugged her and asked why she thought that. She sobbed and said she saw the red marks on my wrist and the bite mark on the back of my neck last time, thinking I had been beaten. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry, so I could only explain euphemistically. That was just me drinking too much and accidentally bumping into things. No one bullied me. Angel was skeptical, and only stopped crying after I pinky promised her. I went to thank the doctors and nurses and inquired about the surgery schedule. When I came back, there was an extra person in the ward. Charles had bought a huge pile of toys and nutritional supplements and was holding a beautiful doll to amuse Angel. Angel looked at him curiously. Are you really my brother's friend? I've never seen you before. You'll see me often from now on. Charles picked up an apple and started peeling it, carving it into the shape of a little bear before handing it to Angel. Seeing her smiling face, the heavy burden in my heart lightened considerably. I thought Charles had already left. I didn't expect. The moonlight outside the window was bright, but I stared at that tall, broad back, unable to see anything else. In high school, Charles looked like someone you shouldn't mess with, yet he had his own unique kind of gentleness. When other alphas ordered me around or deliberately used their physical strength to bully me on the basketball court, he pulled me onto his team and passed the ball to me every time. Others would look down on a mediocre beta, but he didn't. It was those little things, bit by bit, that made it so my heart could no longer hold anyone else. As I was staring at his back in a daze, Charles suddenly turned around. He walked into the hallway. You dropped out of school to work at the club just for this? Yes. Thank you for your trouble today, Charles. Don't call me Charles anymore. Call me by my name. Okay. Let me hear it. Meeting his deep gaze, I felt inexplicably self-conscious. Charles. A shallow smile rippled in the depths of his eyes. Before I could thank him properly, his phone rang. It was Edgar calling. It seemed urgent. I instantly sobered up and told him to go if he had things to do. I almost forgot he had someone he liked. I walked him to the hospital entrance. Watching his back as he left in a hurry, I couldn't help but envy that young Master Edgar, who had grown up without a care in the world. Recently, rumors were spreading online that Charles was going to get engaged to Edgar. After scrolling through those gossip news, my fingers trembled unconsciously as I clicked open Charles's account. It was as clean as ever, with almost no updates. Unable to find any clues to prove or disprove it, my heart felt like a piece had been hollowed out, impossible to fill. In the afternoon, I went to my part-time job at the adult store. The owner had helped me before. Now that he was hospitalized for appendicitis, I agreed to watch the shop for him for a while. The shop wasn't big, and usually customers only came at night. As the last glow of the sunset disappeared into the horizon, a yellow-haired alpha pushed the door open and walked in. He circled the store and picked up an orange-flavored box. At checkout, he stared at me and smiled. "Is this brand any good?" "I'm not sure. That'll be $69. Cash or scan?" I tried to stay calm. Blondie didn't seem to plan on giving up. Instead, he leaned closer. "Have you used it? Do you like orange flavor?" I pushed him away with a cold face, urging him to pay quickly. After paying, he asked if I wanted to have a late-night snack together. The implication in his tone couldn't be more obvious. I lowered my eyes, too lazy to look at him. I don't like eating with people who dye their hair yellow, and I hate orange-flavored things even more. If you say one more word, I don't mind letting you spend the night at the police station. Just a beta. What are you being so cocky for? Asking you out is giving you face. Blondie curled his lip and left with disdain. I was long used to this level of insults. Near closing time, I was counting the day's turnover. Halfway through counting, the phone suddenly rang. A deep male voice came from the other end. I froze for a few seconds before remembering who it was. "Mr. Brown, is there something you need?" The voice on the other end paused, clearly displeased. "Who told you my surname is Brown? Aren't you Charles's father?" "His father passed away long ago. I'm his uncle." Keith's introduction carried a hint of exasperation, as if Charles's father was a taboo subject. "Sorry, Ethan, where are you right now? Come to the mid-levels villa as soon as possible. Charles is having an episode, and it coincided with his rut. He's very unstable right now." Keith's voice was filled with anxiety. "I'm an alpha. I don't dare go upstairs at all. The pheromones up there are too strong. In this situation, shouldn't you call Edgar? He's an omega. Omegas were best at soothing an alpha in a rut." Keith sighed. "Charles had an illness before. He's not sensitive to pheromones. He even rejects them somewhat. Stop talking and just get over here. I'll pay you whatever you want." My heart clenched instantly. Quickly packed my things and set off. Charles had been ill before? No wonder he sometimes seemed emotionally unstable. Chapter 5. When I arrived at the villa, Keith was already waiting at the door. He handed me a syringe of suppressant. This might help stabilize his mood, though it probably won't be of much use. I took the suppressant and went upstairs. The servants on the first floor were all leaving with grave expressions, evidently unable to bear the oppressive force of the manic alpha pheromones from upstairs. I am a beta. I felt nothing. Pushing open the door, the bedroom was a mess, clearly having been trashed. Charles sat in the corner of the balcony, soaking wet as if he had just been drenched in water. The wet clothes clung to his body, outlining clear muscle lines. He looked up, his scarlet eyes sweeping over me, and an intense sense of oppression made me dare not take another step forward. "Who let you come here? Was it Uncle Keith?" His voice was hoarse. "Yes, he asked me to come help you. Are you okay? Get far away." He gritted his teeth, turning his head to stare at the wall. "I will hurt you. It doesn't matter. I belong to you anyway. You can do whatever you want." He bought me back then and solved my family's predicament. What did getting hurt matter? Charles looked at me in astonishment. "Mine?" "Yes." I slowly approached him, fingers tightly gripping the suppressant in my pocket. I didn't notice that the faint orange-scented pheromones of that blonde alpha still lingered on me. Charles was in his rut, exceptionally sensitive to other people's scents. Just as I was only a step away from him, I saw his eyes suddenly turn incredibly terrifying. Charles seemed like a different person. The surrounding air felt instantly frozen. I instinctively took a step back. This movement seemed to trigger him. He lunged forward violently, pinning me onto the carpet. "Liar! Did you go find someone else again? You say you're mine, but in the end, you couldn't resist hooking up with others." His voice was filled with anger and pain. "What did you do with him? Why are you covered in this smell? Ethan, why are you so disobedient?" He tore open my shirt ruthlessly, not listening to my explanation at all. Sharp teeth pierced into my neck, and I felt a burst of sharp pain. He gripped my waist tightly, making me unable to move. I took the opportunity to uncap the suppressant and jab it into his gland. Charles let out a muffled groan, lifted his head to wipe the blood from the corner of his mouth, his eyes icy cold. He looked like an Azura walking out of hell. "Do you think this thing works on me?" He sneered and pulled out the needle. The gland is the most fragile part of the human body, yet he had almost no reaction just now. Probably his glands were damaged during his previous illness. Meeting Charles's gloomy and morbid gaze, for the first time, I had the impulse to flee. But there was a trace of helplessness in his eyes. It was this moment of hesitation that kept me from leaving this bedroom for the next 3 days. Every time I tried to leave, he would drag me back by my ankle and then inflict even harsher punishments. The room was a mess. The sofa, the bathroom, in front of the mirror, everywhere bore the traces of our lovemaking. Fortunately, as a beta, my constitution was sturdy enough. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have lasted past the first night. Late at night, when Charles held me tightly, there was an indescribable feeling in my heart. Knowing clearly that he might not like me and was just using me to vent his emotions, I still couldn't help but want to get a little closer to him. I was like doing something futile. Knowing I couldn't have him, I still couldn't help but try again and again. Even if only for a brief moment, I was content. At noon, the roar of a sports car engine woke me up. Opening my eyes, I found the room had been cleaned. As soon as I moved slightly, my whole body hurt as if falling apart. Edgar's voice came from downstairs. He had come to see Charles. Instantly, alarm bells rang in my head. The manager had said the biggest taboo in our line of work was causing trouble for the client, especially being discovered by the client's partner. That would make it impossible to survive in the industry. I looked at the bruises all over my body in the mirror and hurriedly wrapped a towel around myself. Footsteps came from outside the door, and my heart began to race. Looking around, I opened the wardrobe and climbed in. Voices conversing came from the hallway. I could vaguely hear some content. Edgar, is there any other way? My heat is coming soon. I can't take it anymore. Charles, didn't I tell you to use handcuffs? Tried it. Couldn't cuff him at all, almost got beaten up. The two walked into the study next door, and their voices gradually became indistinct. Hiding in the dark wardrobe, I breathed a sigh of relief. Why were they discussing such private topics? Did Charles have this special fetish? I had heard clients mention similar things in the shop before. It was said that a master could have many pets. Was his relationship with Edgar like that? Would he also use those sex toys with Edgar? Probably. Charles should be very gentle with Edgar. After all, he was a precious Omega. Thinking of this, my heart began to ache dully again. I touched the bruise on my wrist. The pain sobered me up a bit. I forced myself not to think about these things anymore. Suddenly, the cabinet door opened. I jumped. Charles was wearing loungewear, his expression having returned to normal. Seeing me curled up in his pile of clothes, he couldn't help but hook the corner of his mouth. Do you have any special hobbies? Like playing hide and seek? Or do you like smelling my clothes? Sorry, Has young Master Edgar left? I asked somewhat embarrassedly. He dragged me out of the wardrobe. I clutched the loose towel tightly, meeting Charles's playful gaze. He looked over the marks on my body as if admiring his masterpiece. I suddenly noticed that the bite marks and scratches on his neck weren't covered. Charles's clothes were loose. A slight movement would reveal them. I panicked instantly. Why aren't you wearing a high-collared shirt? Aren't you afraid your fiancé will see? Does he already know of my existence? Scenes of being caught as a mistress already floated in my mind. Charles raised an eyebrow. Who is my fiancé? Edgar. Did I cause you trouble? I really didn't mean to. He was too rough last night. I couldn't help but bite him. He frowned. He's my fiancé? Who told you that? The news and gossip all say so. He sneered. The rumors also say I have an illegitimate son abroad. Do you want to see? Want to be his stepdad? I shook my head awkwardly. Charles pulled me to sit on the sofa, took some medicine, and slowly explained while applying it to me. Edgar likes his uncle. He tried to force a relationship many times without success, so he came to me for help. Force a relationship? I was surprised. I didn't expect such a sweet-looking Omega to do such a thing. How did you help him? I own a pharmaceutical company. I got him a specially made drug and just gave it to him. Is this legal? Charles looked up at me and chuckled. When you disobey and go provoke other alphas behind my back, you'll know if it's legal. I swallowed and quickly explained the origin of the orange-scented pheromones on me. I didn't know if he believed me, but a half-smile hung on the corner of his mouth. Charles knelt on one knee by my legs, his movements applying the medicine very gentle. Say it if it hurts. I can't control myself during my rut. Sorry. There was a trace of tenderness in the way he looked at me. In this moment, I felt a bit unreal. However, knowing he didn't like Edgar, the hole in my heart seemed to be filled a little. Chapter 6. After that day, Charles became much gentler with me. On the day of my sister's surgery, he stayed with me the whole time. The hospital corridor was very quiet. He held my hand and said everything would be okay. In that moment, it felt like our relationship was no longer just a transaction. I found myself craving the warmth of his palm a little. The surgery went very smoothly. My sister was sent to the intensive care unit. I finally couldn't hold on anymore and fell asleep. When I woke up, I was lying on a narrow single sofa, being held tightly by someone. As soon as I moved slightly, Charles tightened his arms around me. "Don't move. Be careful not to fall. You didn't leave? I was worried about you." Just 3 simple words, yet they made my heart feel like it was being scratched by something. His warm breath hit the back of my neck. Felt a bit familiar. He suddenly spoke, as if remembering something. "Ethan, do you remember that time you carried me to the infirmary? I was leaning on you just like this back then. Actually, at that time, I really wanted to bite you, but I was afraid of scaring you." My throat tightened, and I asked with difficulty, "You recognized me long ago? What else?" My memory was excellent in school. I was always first in exams. Did you forget? My heart felt both sour and embarrassed. Reuniting after many years, I never thought I could stand together with him. Even less did I want to appear before him in this capacity. Seeing I wasn't speaking, Charles nudged me gently with his knee. "What about you? Didn't recognize me?" I've seen too many people. Didn't recognize you." I told a lie, just wanting to preserve my last bit of self-esteem. "Oh," he squeezed my hand, a bit hard. "Better remember from now on, otherwise. You know the consequences of my anger. I won't forget in the future." On the day my sister was discharged, Jeffrey and I came to pick her up. Angel liked Jeffrey very much. As soon as they met, she hugged him and wouldn't let go. "Brother, isn't Brother Charles coming?" "He's busy." Charles traveled for business often and rarely even went to the company. How would he have time to come pick up Angel? Just as I finished speaking, we walked to the hospital entrance and saw Charles's car. The trunk was full of gifts for Angel. Angel thanked him with a smile and secretly glanced at me. I had no choice but to speak up and offer to treat him to a meal. Charles glanced at Jeffrey and said, "Eating is fine, but I want to eat what you cook." "This? Inconvenient." "No. Then I have to go buy groceries first." Actually, I didn't really want him to eat my cooking, afraid it wouldn't suit his taste. But I didn't want to refuse either. In the end, we went to the supermarket together to buy groceries before going home. When Charles parked the car, he saw Jeffrey holding Angel's hand, while his other hand was helping me carry the groceries. A passing neighbor laughed and said we looked like a family of 3. Quickly shook my head. Charles interrupted the topic expressionlessly and walked to the elevator. "Which floor?" Jeffrey pressed the button for the 6th floor. I was a bit reluctant to let him see what my home looked like. But as soon as we entered, Angel pulled him into the room to play with Lego. Charles had bought her many dolls, almost filling up her small bed. Laughter came from the room. My tense nerves slowly relaxed. I cooked a few of my specialty dishes. During the meal, Charles looked like he was eating happily. The wall paint in the apartment was peeling. The floor was a bit damp. The window lock was broken. Turns out he didn't care about these things at all. I breathed a sigh of relief. "Why aren't you eating? What are you thinking about?" Jeffrey put a piece of fish in my bowl, removing the skin before eating it himself. I didn't like eating fish skin, but Jeffrey did. This was a habit formed from eating together for a long time. While eating, I picked out fish bones for Angel. Today I made boiled shrimp. Charles didn't like ginger, so I specially didn't put ginger in the dipping sauce. I saw him take a bite. Charles was very quiet when eating, his manners very polite. But in the second half of the meal, he frowned, seemingly dissatisfied with something. I was on pins and needles and felt full after eating just a little. After the meal, Charles didn't stay long. He had a meeting at the company the next day. I walked him downstairs. He didn't speak the whole time. Was the food I cooked too unpalatable? I was just thinking about it. Suddenly, he stopped walking. Charles stood under the street lamp, the orange light falling on his face, making his eyelashes clearly visible. "Ethan, let's end our current relationship." "Huh." My mind went blank. After reacting, my heart felt like it was being crushed by something heavy. I knew it. I shouldn't have let him come to my house. Seeing how poor I was, who would still want to pay attention to me? I clenched my fingers. Okay, Mr. Charles. Wait for me a moment. I ran upstairs and brought that black card down. Returning to Charles, I handed the card back to him. Mr. Charles, thank you for your help during this time. I won't disturb you anymore in the future. I kept my head down, standing in the shadow of the building, only a few steps away, yet I felt like I was standing in a different world from him. Charles stared at that card. He frowned, then quickly relaxed. Suddenly, he sighed. Ethan, ending the relationship means let's change to a different kind of relationship. What? Dating or getting married? Choose one. I was completely dumbfounded, suspecting I had heard wrong. I opened my eyes wide, looking up at his serious gaze. I don't want to see you being so close to others. I am very selfish and want to possess you completely. Is that okay? Charles spoke very directly. Actually, he was insanely jealous inside, jealous of everyone who spoke to me. After a few seconds, he couldn't help but ask, "Why aren't you speaking? You remember every habit of mine, every preference. With just one look from me, you know what to do. Dare you say you have no feelings for me at all?" His fingers pinched together nervously. My throat felt blocked, too excited to speak. Inferiority made me want to deny it. But looking at his expectant eyes, I couldn't lie anymore. I do. I have for a very long time. But, Charles, you are too far away from me. I can't reach you. Before, I could play basketball with you because you actively invited me, smiling and saying you wouldn't let me lose. But later you left, and no matter how I looked, I couldn't find you. Now, even if I like you, how long can you like me? This was the reality between us. I didn't want to dive in headfirst, trying to catch the moon only to drown in the water instead. Charles looked at me. I don't know how long I can like you. I can't predict how long I can live. But I know, this time I won't let you lose either. Are you willing to trust me one more time? After speaking, he took a step toward me. Just like many times in our school days, walking toward me from the sunlight, asking if I wanted to join him. My heartbeat got faster and faster. The answer in my heart was already obvious. This was Charles. The Charles the First had liked for 6 years. The Charles the First simply couldn't refuse. Anyway, I had nothing left to lose. Since he actively walked over, why shouldn't I try? I am willing. My voice was a bit choked. Charles's clenched fingers finally relaxed. He smiled. Come here. Kiss me. I stepped forward, standing with him under the street lamp. The orange light shone on us. My lips just touched him when I was hugged tightly by him. Charles held me, kissing me forcefully. Chapter 7. Charles and I got together. After leaving the club, I returned to the university campus, studying while working part-time. Charles's daily life became very regular. He would pick up Angel from elementary school first, then come to the university to pick me up after class. My classmates often joked that I got married too early. To make it convenient for Angel and me to go to school, Charles bought a house in the city center. I told him he was wasting money, but he said he could earn it back in bed. What a rogue. However, I noticed a strange habit of his. Every time we were intimate, he would always cover my eyes or turn off the lights. One time, I insisted on showering with him. He seemed helpless, but he agreed. When he took off his clothes, I saw that his body was covered in scars. Those scars looked old, crisscrossing his skin. There were too many to count, especially on his arms. What happened with these injuries? Couldn't help but ask. He shrugged indifferently. After high school graduation, everyone thought I went abroad. Actually, I was sent to a mental asylum abroad by my father. He hid me away on purpose just to make my mother yield in the divorce lawsuit. They fought incessantly over assets and shares. I stayed there for 2 years, and no one cared whether I lived or died. Later, my father died of illness, and my mother went abroad. Only after my uncle rescued me did I go to the UK to study, where I met Edgar. We even shared a dorm. These injuries are from that time. My emotions became very unstable, and my mental state was poor. You probably can't imagine how cruel the nurses in the asylum were. As long as I didn't take my medicine, they would use various methods to torture me, even using electric shocks and whips on my glands. Back then Hearing this, my heart ached as if pricked by needles. It felt as if those scars were carved onto my own body. He paused for a moment and forced a smile. Forget it, let's not talk about this. Weren't you going to help me shower? I turned on the shower head. Warm water droplets fell onto his crisscross scars. I hugged him gently and placed a soft kiss on those scars. Charles, from now on, when you feel uncomfortable, I'll be with you. Even if you lose your temper at me, it doesn't matter. I would rather he vent his anger on me than see him hurt himself. My fingers gently stroked over the raised scars. His body suddenly tensed up. The muscles in his abdomen became hard and distinct. Charles smiled and touched my hair. How is this different from seducing me? I looked up, not yet reacting. The next second, he swept me up by the waist. Charles kissed me. My eyes grew moist. Just as I was about to suffocate, he whispered in my ear, "Don't worry. I've been taking my medicine on time. I will get better." Is he really taking medicine? He is clearly eating me. Epilogue. My name is Charles. From the time I can remember, my parents argued nonstop. I lived a very repressed life. I once thought that as long as I got good grades, their relationship would ease a little. Later, I found out it was useless. They didn't care about me at all. My friends were busy dating, hitting bars, and racing cars. But I couldn't work up any interest in those things. I even once thought I was asexual. Until I met Ethan. One time, I got injured playing basketball. Ethan seemed to have everything prepared. Band-aids, disinfectant, towels. No matter what problem I encountered, he could always help. When he got close to me, I smelled a refreshing scent. Like the smell of a damp forest after the rain. I thought it was his pheromones. Only later did I discover he was a beta. Ethan was always quiet when he was around. Not hypocritical like other friends. I liked that quietness. I pulled him into my basketball team so no one would dare to bully him. For a long time, I was just used to Ethan's presence. I didn't realize that when I played ball, I would subconsciously look for him in the stands. Later, I was forcibly taken abroad by my father. In the face of profit, they revealed their ugliest sides. To them, I never seemed to matter. No one cared about my feelings. And no one truly loved me. 2 years later, I finally escaped that mental asylum. Returning to the normal world, I was sick. Anxious all day, violent and paranoid. It felt like there was a beast roaring in my heart, wanting to break out of its cage. I struggled on the edge of collapse. My uncle found me a psychiatrist, and even found someone to perform an exorcism on me. Every method was tried. Finally, he brought back a beta. I recognized Ethan at a glance. He was still that clumsy. Even when I hurt him, he wouldn't make a sound. When my emotions were unstable and my hands wouldn't stop shaking, Ethan proactively offered his neck. "Charles, you can bite me hard. Will that make it better?" In his cautious eyes, I saw a warmth I hadn't seen in a long time. The fair neck I didn't dare bite 6 years ago. Today, I finally got my wish. I held him and caught the love he had hidden for so long. In that moment, I felt my soul being filled. From that day on, I became interested in one thing: bullying Ethan, craving Ethan, falling in love with Ethan. So please, take the initiative to love me too. If you enjoyed this story, remember to subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much.